What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of the Legislative Director, talking about legislative things. It is May, it is summer, but she's still here to talk about what happened at the legislature back in the winter. Legislative Director Amber Marr, with her as always, ready to chat about some fun topics today. Well, topic, not topics. Not the Legislative Director, Jason Thompson, and what I think is, for the first time ever on this show, we got non-AARP guests, and I love to see it. So first, let me welcome, we got Lacey Everett from MIBOR. She'll explain what MIBOR stands for and what she does. And then Leslie Gordon from Indigo. She will also tell you what that is. But by now, if you're a listener or watcher of the show, you know exactly who Indigo is and you know what they do. So I have with me today, this is exciting, and you guys are watching and listening, the Women of Transit, as I've now dubbed you. Congratulations, the Women of Transit. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
This is fabulous. Yes.
So there you go, Amber.
The Women of Transit. Yes. So I wanted to just throw this to Lacey really fast so she can introduce herself and talk about why she is here and what she does.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to join you guys. I'm Lacey Everett. I'm the Director of Political Affairs for MIBOR Realtor Association. MIBOR no longer stands for anything, so we'll just keep it at that. It is a proper noun. But Realtor Association that covers 12 counties, 10,000 members in central Indiana. And we have been a partner on developing and expanding transit in Marion County and central Indiana for well over 15 years.
So the MIBOR thing, it's very AARP of you.
I was
AARP
just going to say that.
No longer stands for anything except just AARP.
So we made the mistake to her that everybody does to us.
Everybody does to us.
We're in the same boat because people always want to know, and I'm like, no, not anymore.
No. Just this is what it is. Embrace it, love it.
Yeah,
love it.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely, yes. It's so great that you're here. I'm so happy to have you. Now we are going to go to Leslie. Leslie, would you like to tell us about yourself a little bit?
Sure. Pleasure to be here. Thank you again. Leslie Gordon. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Communications for Indigo. It is, I guess Indigo doesn't really stand for anything either, but we are the largest public transportation agency in the state of Indiana and excited to be expanding our service and working to really give the community what they ask for. I've been with the agency a couple years now and been in this fight at the State House with you all since I started. So excited again to be here today and have a little chat.
Love it. Thank you so much for being here. As for those of you that are familiar with the show, or at least recently, we've been kind of, rather than just running down all the bills and things of that nature that AARP got in the mix on during the Indiana General Assembly, we're breaking them off into kind of topic areas. And today we're dedicating the entirety of the show to transit and some of the, I think I've used shenanigans a lot on this show, but around this issue at the State House for whatever reason, and we won't speculate during this show about said reasons, but there are people for reasons that are their own. This is also hashtag Inside Baseball that just like to get into this and mess with it. And we spend a lot of time and energy pushing back on it and defeating it. And that's mostly what we're going to be talking about today, is those efforts that everybody here did to make happen at the State House. So Amber, let's start this discussion. And I can't say fun because it really isn't fun for a good portion of it, but
you don't think that's fun? I mean,
we may have different definitions of what fun is.
Probably. I'm probably very wrong.
To each their own.
It's kind of fun, right? Like you don't want to be there, but you might as well enjoy it.
Yeah.
But
That's
if you
true.
just keep, if you keep
Right.
going, then it feels like success, and that's
Well,
all I care about.
yes, it's fun when you win, and it's also fun if you're getting to the people that you're working with that are in the trenches there with you. I think is also
Yeah.
makes it
The women
fun.
of transit. I mean,
Yes, women of
Yes.
transit
this wouldn't
just
exist.
Good company.
crushing it.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, Amber, let's talk about what happened in this whole transit amendments and bills and all sorts of stuff that happened this year.
So I'm going to start with the Anti-Transit Amendment number 30, which was actually attached or was brought up with Senate Enrolled Act 290. So this was titled The Various Education Matters, which I'm sure everyone is thinking, why are we using an education bill to talk about transit? And we thought the same thing. So this amendment, the specific amendment, was brought forth in the House Ways and Means Committee once Senate Enrolled Act 290 had already passed through the Senate and made it over to the House. And this was an amendment that came up in committee. Basically, what this would have done, and we have talked about it all throughout session, just as a reminder, this particular amendment would have effectively eliminated dedicated lanes for a specific portion of the Blue Line here in Indianapolis. We were very successful in or at least this amendment did not make it out of committee and did not get attached to the Senate Enrolled Act 290. I would love to tell you all about it, but because I have amazing guests here, I am going to sort of toss it to Lacey really fast. She's going to talk a little bit about kind of where we started, how we did some efforts to get people there to help us kill this amendment, and I'm just going to let you talk about it because I think it'll be better coming from you.
I appreciate that. I'm sure you could do it justice, but yeah, and cut me off because I'll get going. But ultimately, with legislative session in general, we are trained to be prepared for anything and everything. And you guys have talked about this on your broadcast before. That is probably the best thing we have going for us with our transit coalition. And so when I talk about transit coalition, I'm talking about Transit Drives Indy. This is something that was formulated when we started going through the process of getting this referendum passed in 2016. Before that, there were lots of different coalition names. It's very similar groups of people that all different types of organizations and companies that join together that really want for this transportation effort to move forward, all types of hurdles, things at the state house, at local level, and all that. So as it got passed and we have maintained that kind of oversight and advocacy role, anything that comes up at that state house that is trying to dismantle what the public voted for, that's where we're at. We're there for those discussions, and this was no different. So when this issue came to light and our experts on the ground there noticed that it wasn't just various education matters, but that it did delve into dedicated lanes, the essence of the frequency conversation with transit. We knew we needed to mobilize, and we did. I think it's just telling that once a group has worked together on this issue for so long, it's pretty easy to pull pull the group together. So it's just a couple of emails and reminding them of what they voted for, reminding them of why, and saying, we need you to show up and remind the legislators because they seem to have forgotten for a little bit again. So I mean, I feel like that's kind of the broad scope, but we were mobilized. We had to go back to our talking points. It's very clear. I guess the only thing I would add to that is if they wanted to talk about it being various education matters, is probably more so in our benefit, because education and access to education was one of the biggest reasons why we decided to, support transit expansion, let alone access to healthcare, let alone access to food and to jobs and to housing. So I guess they kind of gave us a little hint there, but we were ready.
Thank you so much. And yes, and I know I said that the amendment, we were able to kill the amendment, but actually, I think what we could address is that while this was being discussed in committee and the amendment specifically, a lot of the legislators on the committee were very confused and did not understand why this was going to be placed in this particular bill. And so I would say, you know, from all of our outreach, as well as everyone who showed up that day in the committee to testify and to say their reasoning why this amendment should not go in, the Ways and Means Committee actually decided to table the amendment, and they voted to table it, which essentially meant it had died because it was not going to be voted on to go into the bill. So it was amazing to see the group of individuals that had showed up and organizations to be there to support Indigo and the build out of the system of the Blue Line. And you know, Leslie, I don't want to not allow you to say anything to this. I didn't know if you wanted to kind of talk about the reason why it is so important that the infrastructure is built out for the Blue Line and what that will do for that part of the city.
Yeah, I think, and Lacey started to hit on it. Access is really key. Access, connectivity, and really just what kind of opportunities are we building for our citizens and residents, and are we giving them what they asked for? And so that's been our main motivation in the projects that we're doing and all the planning. This is years in the making. Like I think we forget sometimes because it's been through, you know, leadership changes and things like that. But this process is like 20 years in the making, and there's been public outreach and lots of plans and lots of data that has gone into these decisions. So I'm glad to see that these discussions are bringing these points out, and that when it counts, we've been able to clearly tell that story. But our program and our pilots that we've done with schools have shown that people are using transit and being able to give them access outside of traditional school transportation so that they can go to recreational events and jobs and, you know, kind of help lift some of that burden off parents is a great reason why transit needs to be expanded on, and frequency is important. To get frequency, you need to have dedicated lanes, and to get dedicated lanes and to have nice infrastructure, you need these transit projects because our, you know, city isn't able to do it all the way it's set up right now. So we really are working to better the entire community, entire corridor that we go in. It's not just for those that are going to be riding the bus. So it touches all hands, and that's why it's such rewarding work, and I think that's why it can raise a lot of conversation too.
Absolutely. And I wanted to touch on it because I know, Jason, we've talked about this in previous shows as well, but we did a survey in 2021 that basically, according to a lot of the bills you will hear us talk about, and the dedicated lanes that they were trying to take away, 74% of the surveyed voters supported dedicated bus lanes and level boarding stops. So I know that we also really wanted and tried to make that a point to share with legislators that the individuals in this community and that have the ability to access transit, they voted for this, they wanted it, and this is what we were trying to highlight is dedicated lanes are important. So thank you.
Something that they said in that survey too is that other aspect of infrastructure is, you know, your sidewalks and your crosswalks and all that stuff. They valued that. I think it's, you know, strong interest was like 86%. So, I mean, that was one of the highest things that we had on it, is when we asked folks about if they were interested in these things, and they are not necessarily just the level boarding or dedicated lanes. It's the other things that come with it, like the sidewalks and the crosswalks and the ease of getting around, because otherwise there's a good chance that those kinds of investments are not happening along these routes if the Blue Line is not being built and things of that nature. So it's a big deal.
Major. I was gonna say they're not
Huge.
happening.
They're not. Well, and we know that we aren't like immune to any of the issues that other metros are facing, but we do absolutely have a whole other structure of funding that we have to deal with in Marion County that not a lot of other metros deal with, and that's where the funds go. That's where the gas tax goes. That's where the income tax goes, and it's not where you work. It's where you live. Those are things you have to educate people, even legislators in the state house, on. It's just a reminder to them of what that looks like, and that belief that they had that, well, the federal grant isn't as necessary as you think it is. I mean, we could call that BS, because there's just no way that we would have that capital to produce this project as it was voted on. And for all of those individuals that went out to vote in 2016 to have to continually show up and remind the legislators of what they voted for, it's such a disservice, and it puts this project off. We know that. Leslie, you could talk to the timelines. It's ridiculous. So being able to have that conversation, continue to educate them, that's what we have to do. But at the end of the day, this needs to happen in order to fulfill that promise that was made.
Absolutely. And I think that is something that we need to continue to remind people, because the voters have spoken. And
More
that
than
is,
once.
yeah, exactly. Yes. So Jason, I mean, I can just move in right next to this next bill, because this kind of goes along exactly what we were just talking about.
Yep.
Senate Bill 369 was sort of what kicked all of these amendments off, if you will. We were able to not get this particular bill a hearing. It was the Marion County Public Transportation Corporation bill. We thought it would get assigned to the Transportation Committee in the Senate. As you have heard us talk about, it was assigned to the Rules and Legislative Procedures Committee, and that is where it stayed. It did not make it out. It was not given a hearing. For everything that we did on talking to legislators in the Senate, including the Transportation Committee chair and just other individuals that were trying to either get it a chance to have a hearing or to not have be able to see the light of day. But we were able to keep it in Rules and Legislative Procedures, where it essentially died at the crossover. So it was not given a committee hearing. And this bill would have effectively eliminated the dedicated lanes for the Blue Line within the mile square of the city. So, and we had just talked about that with that amendment on eliminating the dedicated lanes and how important that those dedicated lanes are. So I don't necessarily think we need to go much more into that. Jason, did you have anything else that we should talk about other than that one did not get out of committee and we were very excited?
Other than saying good work to all y'all helping to keep that thing in the Rules Committee. That is all I have to say on that. We were excited when we saw it was assigned to Rules. Even more excited when it stayed there and didn't.
Yeah.
There was the concern because Rules could, they could do their leadership can do their thing and do something with it. But look, it got assigned to Rules, died in Rules, like it should have. And we move on. So good work to all of you on making that happen.
But except that's kind of what I was saying, like, because we were able to kill that bill, this is where all of the amendments came into play. So with that being said,
but not in like the good way creative. This is the not good creative. I don't have a
trying to find different ways to attack the line, right? So, I mean, we can move right into this next amendment, which will sort of allow us to talk about that a little bit. It was the House Enrolled Act 1251, which was, again, various education matters bill, and it was amendment number 38. And this particular amendment, and again, I'm going to use the ladies on the call with me to help me explain this just a little bit, but at a time when our community has been rallying around the opportunities, just like we said, for children to have ways to use transit and get around the city, not just to get to school, but also to just get around our area for whatever it is they might need. This particular amendment would have, I guess, disallowed children from riding transit. And I can talk about this forever, but I am actually gonna, Lacey, do you wanna just kind of help me explain a little bit about this? And then I'll throw it to Leslie to talk about why this amendment would have really hurt what is already happening with Indigo and some of the schools in our area.
Yeah, happy to explain further. Ultimately, this would have made it impossible for Indigo operators to drop off school age children, not just even specific school or whatever you might
Yeah, sorry.
look at it, just school age children in general on the safest drop off that they could make for those kids on a BRT station or stop, which is just ridiculous in itself. But ultimately, it was an effort to say, let's dismantle this in any way, shape, or form we can. And trying to make it about safety was counterproductive because of how this infrastructure works and how, I mean, the BRT stations and that network and infrastructure creates such a safer opportunity for pedestrians to access transit and to get around. And I think the other piece, and Leslie will probably touch on this a little bit more, is that this wasn't just about those students. This was about kind of taking a swipe at an area where even the parents would have been at a disservice because they weren't able to then have that, you know, reliable form of transportation for their kids. And so then what happens to their day at that point when they're having to find other opportunities to get people around and get them to extracurriculars, to their part-time job after school, the list goes on.
It does.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Leslie, I would love if you just wanted to maybe talk about some of the pilot that you have going. I mean, this is part of why transit is so important.
No, yeah, I just have to tell you my reaction when I saw this come out was we're a safe place. Like we are a designated safe place if anything goes down. So for that to be try to be in law, I'm like, this makes no sense. So it was really confusing, but we are integrated in schools and we are continuing to build and grow that impact and that access. So we work with several schools, including IPS, one of the largest school corporations in Marion County, to make transit available to their students. So initially the program was an opt-in, so everyone had access. So nearly 5,000 students had the chance to ride Indigo for free. So they could use their student badge, get on that bus, and they could use it anytime we were operating. So it wasn't just to go to school. So again, that access to jobs or extracurriculars and really helping lift that burden for a lot of families that are opting to only have one car or don't have a choice and have no car. So it was really important for that program to continue to grow, to show, just again, as Lacey put out, that our BRT platforms are as safe as they get. And we continue to make them safer. All of the additions that we're doing, making them ADA accessible, from the crosswalks, putting in lights, putting in the speak crosswalks too for accessibility. So again, they're pretty safe to navigate, even for those that are, maybe a little younger. But we work with schools from field trips. We're really creating that pipeline. We want students, parents, organizations to know that transit is a friend and a resource for the community, and programs like this help expand on that. So having some legislation that could halt that completely, it just, it was really hard to comprehend, and glad we didn't have to.
And so I guess that leads me to what happened with this amendment. Well, because again, there were so many of us in the room, people were making phone calls, people were talking about this, different school systems were even hearing about this and really causing havoc, because this was something that they have thoroughly enjoyed, and the kids use, transit. So basically the chairman of the Senate Education and Career Development Committee actually decided not to call the amendment down, which was a fantastic idea. So because it was
We
not
supported
called
that.
yes, we did. We were very appreciative. And just I know that the reason why he decided not to call it down was because of the opposition that not only he had already been hearing during the committee, but also what would have ensued had that been called forth. So let's see. I guess we still have, just one more. I guess we have one more amendment to talk about. I guess I feel like I shouldn't just say only one more. We've talked about like 4 different times where they have tried to dismantle the build out of the transit system. So this particular one deals with the House Enrolled Act 1251 again, only this was amendment number 7 on second reading. So this actually happened on the Senate floor. Now, I just want to say throughout this whole process, obviously legislators have heard and heard and heard about everything that we have been doing, trying to stop, trying to prevent. So while this happened on second reading and we could not be on the floor, when this was called down, we were all out in the hallway. These legislators had already heard everything that we were opposed to from other bills and amendments that went through during the Senate and House sessions. So this particular one would have caused transit operators to have different rules and regulations in order to be employed. Because I do not explain this very, very well, and Lacey does such a phenomenal job of doing so, I am going to let her talk a little bit about this, and then Leslie, if you want to chime in, I would love to hear if you have anything else to add to that. So Lacey, please take it away.
Yes. So this one in particular was a change of requirements for Indigo operators. And it was, I believe, and Amber, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was in relation to if you're going to transport school-age children, you must adhere to the same requirements that our bus operators adhere to.
Correct.
By no means are those requirements wrong. I think that was the key too, is that it had to be pretty strategic. And we talked about this quite a bit of how do you approach this without sounding like, oh, we want like anyone and everyone to drive buses. Of course there are requirements. Of course you need to have passed, licensing exams and have all of those things in a row so that you're safely transporting people, whether it's school-age children or not. So by no means was that the approach on our end, but what happens when you honestly very haphazardly try and do something of that nature, the ramifications are large. And it would have negated Indigo's participation in the Second Chance program and allowing ex-offenders to, that are re-entering, that are have done their time, have done, what needs to be done to order to get back into society and have a job and do those things. They would not have been able to drive buses. On top of that, veterans, because there was a requirement that had to do with like physical ability, which obviously you have to be able to drive the bus safely to operate it. But this was going to expand upon those requirements and negate veterans from being part of that program. I'm going to kick it to Leslie because she can tell you all about how this would have impacted an already difficult situation coming out of a pandemic where they're looking for operators and trying to recruit. And then let's add a couple layers onto that and make workforce a difficult thing.
No, you said it. So even before the pandemic, operator recruiting is a challenge. We ebb and flow no matter what. It is. We have some really great operators who have been here, 40 plus years driving a bus, but we also we have to keep recruiting and filling that position. And we're looking at expanding. And so that expansion requires more operators. Then you throw in a pandemic, and we deal with all the challenges that really every other industry is seeing with finding help, finding those that want to be on the front lines. Our operators are heroes. They are out there every day getting our essential employees to and from jobs and really putting themselves at risk. And we did everything that we could to keep them safe. And they did everything that they could to come to work and deliver every day. So to have something that would create more barriers would have been detrimental. We've always been very receptive to second chance hiring, but we just right before the pandemic really solidified that with the resolution with our board. And again, that isn't to say that, like you said, anyone and everyone can drive these buses. It is an extensive process to operate a bus, a 40 or 60-foot bus. We make sure they know what they're doing, but we know that there are people that have paid their debt to society, have had a lot of time between their offenses. So there is an evaluation for each of those candidates that might have something in their past that they are trying to move forward from. And so we take that into heavy consideration, and we have solid restrictions. There are certain offenses that are not allowed, one of them being crimes against children. So we are doing our due diligence to make sure that they are equipped to operate and really interact with the community and do a great job. And they have. And we've had a few success stories that we're so proud of. And we want to keep being a resource to the community. And we have a good job. So if you know anyone that needs a good job, tell them to come to Indigo. We have a lot of good jobs. We train you. We pay while you train. We are ready to invest in you. And so why not share that with everyone in the community that's willing to put forth that effort and come out and do the work? So no, that would have been, again, a hurdle we would have jumped and we would have figured it out. But why, right? Like, why are we creating these barriers when we say we don't have enough people to work or people don't want to work? We have all of that going on right now at this trying time. Why do we want to make it harder for people to get jobs and help their families? So, and we love veterans. Our veterans ride free. We have a whole program to support them. Nearly, I believe, 2,000 veterans in that program. So we know that it is needed. And we have several veterans that work for us, including our leader, our president and CEO is a veteran. So we take a lot of pride in providing service and hiring that community. So there is nothing. Oh no.
You're okay.
I mean,
we can tell you you're back. You're fine. We can hear you. You're good. This happens a lot. As you know, our listeners and viewers know that we also fight for really good high-speed internet. Yeah. So when we freeze, we always make it a commercial to say we need better and higher speed internet. So don't worry. This is just a little commercial in the middle of our transportation discussion.
There you go. I love it. I'm glad we got a chance to plug that in.
It's all infrastructure.
It's all infrastructure. I was like, oh man, no.
My favorite part was you saying, "Oh no."
I was like, no, we can still hear you. You're good. I do want to say though, because Leslie, you offered the fact that you are still looking for operators. If someone was interested in going to be an operator, where can they go to find that information?
Wonderful question. Indigo.net /employment, or just our website. If you are not ready to get on the internet or don't have great internet access right now, you can also call too at 317-635-3344, and we can connect you and get you started on that process. Or if you really are inclined, you can pop into our headquarters at 1501 West Washington Street.
Awesome. And can you give that telephone number one more time just in case?
Yes, 317-635-3344.
Awesome. Well, and just to close this out really fast, because I don't think I even said what happened to this amendment on the floor. It was brought forth, obviously, and called down. And because it was so amazing when they took a vote, it was by voice vote. It actually failed on the Senate floor, and the Lieutenant Governor, who is the one up at the podium, it failed by a voice vote. So we did not move forward, and it was amazing. We were all very surprised and grateful that it did not move forward. So, Jason, I see you were.
No, anytime a bill goes down like voice vote style like that, it is. Especially when the amendment is coming from the majority side, like you see the minority party get up there and offer amendments, and they get shot down by voice vote all the time. To see it happen coming from the majority side is a rare, very rare occurrence. So I think it was interesting to see from those that have been around the Senate and the legislature for a while. It's kind of from a historical perspective it was entertaining to see. And then I think this is just me speculating here, but it sent a message, I think, to certain folks that are because as you can see from this discussion, there was like 3 amendments on transit trying to get put into education bills. And I think this kind of sent the message of like, all right, stop messing around with this. And like, you've tried a couple of times, gotten shot down several times, and now we're going to do it in a very public manner. And maybe that message will get through. If I was a betting man, I would say probably not. And we'll be having this conversation again when the legislature gets underway. But obviously I think we'll be ready for it, but that was an interesting thing to see. But it also highlights just the fact that the folks that are opposed to expansion of transit, for whatever their reasons are, they are pretty relentless. And they're just going to keep on. At some point in time, they're going to give up, I think. And it's going to be a question of just how that's going to be.
Well, at some point in time, there wouldn't be anything else for them to fight.
Yes.
Don't challenge them, but yes.
I know, right? Not. Jeez.
But you can tell through all of these, in previous fights that we've had at the State House, that this topic has become toxic for those that support the community, that support transit, that support everything that we're supporting. It's become toxic because of the coalition that has come out and spoken on behalf of transit and expansion. And so then they try and put all of these other things through. Ultimately, we know the strategy behind that. They're trying to get it in so that they have something to go off of in the future. But if we're on top of it, just keep shooting it down. And that's the goal.
Because
that is the goal.
These lines are being built. The blue line's being built. The purple line's being built. It's embrace it, for lack of a better word. Get on board with it, kind of deal. And let's just see the benefits, and maybe just try to this is a good thing for the community. And I don't know how many times we got to say it, but we'll just keep on saying it.
Yep.
And I know that we are coming to the end of our time. I don't want to keep you ladies beyond what you need to, because I think you have other things to do today. I could keep you here all day with me. But I didn't know, Leslie, can you just really quickly tell everyone where we are in the build out right now? And then I promise we will let you guys get to your day.
It's been a pleasure. I enjoy these chats in my day. But yeah, we're at a really great place. So we have started construction on the purple line, which is going to overlap the red line to 38th Street and then head out east to Post Road and up to Ivy Tech in Lawrence. And so we have actually the part in Lawrence, a lot of the road work and infrastructure improvements that are happening up there are actually complete. We have a major closure there at Fall Creek and 38th Street. So bear with us. The end result will be great, I promise. But that's going to have a lot of sewer drainage and understreet work, but it's going to be a brand new street when we're done. And so we are well underway with Purple Line, and that is on track to, I don't really want to put dates out there, but we're expecting a couple years of construction. And then we are about halfway through design with the blue line. So the next engagement that you'll see will be for 60% design for the blue line. And then the goal of be to getting to 100% design and bidding out that construction.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for that update. I'm going to toss it back to Jason to hopefully maybe we can close us out.
Yeah, we will just Lacey, Leslie, thank you so much for the time today and
Thank
for
you.
joining us and for your
for having us.
continued work and advocacy on this issue. It's critical to Central Indiana, so keep up the good work. We appreciate you, and obviously we're here to help wherever we can, and we'll continue to be there with you as they continue to try things. And then in the meantime, I think that's all we have for this topic, this episode. I think next episode, I think we're going to maybe chat some housing, which is also connected to this transit issue. So it's all connected. But we'll talk about that next time. And once again, we want to thank Lacey and Leslie for
Yes.
being here. And Amber, as always, good work. And hopefully you all will like, subscribe, tell your friends about the show. And, we'll be back again with another episode. So until next time on the Legislative Director, talking about legislative things, we will see you then.